poet is unnamed. The poet is unnamed. The poet is not one thing. The poet is colour. The poet is change. The poet is not described. The poet is undefined. The poet is never the same. The poet is unnamed. The poet is in the words. The poet is on the page. There was no poet before. There will be no poet again. The poet became the wind. The poet became the earth. The poet will be forever. The poet will die at birth. You want to touch the poet with names and flesh and limbs, held close to keep your heart alive. I'm sorry, I am not human. I'm sorry, I am not human. The poet will never exist. The poet will always survive. Sorry, I forgot to send a bio, so when the bio that was read out, I was quite happy. And it did say that I'd written a collection called Colonised Objects. I haven't actually chosen to read anything from that. I'm reading some new stuff today, so I'm going to read some quite light-hearted rhyming poetry, but it also skirts around the edges of the topic that you've been discussing at the workshop today, which I'm sorry that I missed. And then I'm going to read a story which is in the form of a poem. So. This is called Riding Out. I once got a ticket out of here, rode the train out for miles and miles, met an ugly girl with an ugly stare and a goddamn ugly smile. She was ugly like the road at night, she was ugly like cold silence. I got on the train to get out of here, left the ugly world behind me. I sang as I rode that train along, oiled freedom from wheels on steel, and the ugly girl would echo my song with a rusty, dry-throated appeal. When we stopped off at stations in bleak disrepair, I fell quiet and never dismounted, but the ugly girl crooned louder there, her ugliness never once doubted. At the end of the line we were riding out, I climbed off to sing in the fields. The ugly girl was laughing there where my ugly heart was healed. So I know Sam, who organised this, because he was my teacher at Sussex, and we worked at, we've done some work together at Sussex, and I've been education officer there, where I found, experienced the oppression of institutional circumstances, basically. So I've written quite a lot of poems about institutions and how they frustrate me. And so this is called Institutional Moaning / Truth Sandwich. The average speech in an institution opens like, here at X, we are intersectional. We value an inclusive, diverse, and equal environment where all can flourish, regardless of identity, background, or heritage. It goes on like, we are in essence, blah, blah, blah. We value the ethos of blah. We say everything, we mean nothing. The truth lives between the lines, starting on the middle, around now. We are contradiction, we are hypocrites. Hypocrisy and contradiction are married. They met 12,000 years ago in a human body. They fed on blood and other bodily fluids. They fed on desire and conformity. They fed on hope and will and habit. It was all too difficult to digest, so they vomited into each other's mouths and became one, like two clouds in the sky swallowing each other in the breath of a wind. Now they cohabit in our heads, an eternal bitter couple, battling and fucking and knocking on our consciences if we have them. Here at X, we eat pastries and write notes on pieces of paper, doors closed to the war outside. Everyone here has a brain with which to help solve the world's disasters, but we are locked firmly in a room where our ideas will die before we are released. Sorry, I'm having a struggle with Google Docs, so apologies. Okay, here we go. So I studied philosophy. This poem is called My Philosopher. I don't think poets exist, I don't think philosophers exist, but I feel like there's parts of us that are them, and it becomes a lot easier to do the work when you feel like you're channeling something rather than being yourself. This is called My Philosopher. My philosopher lives to think. She highlights the truth in wet yellow ink. Every day she walks the page, feeling sound and valid. My philosopher clasps careful clauses in her purse. She picks up words like T-shirts and examines them for clarity. Then she tries them on in the mirror to see if they will suit her haircut. My philosopher gets it right always and argues every single day. And she waits to be wrong to be right again. My philosopher drinks her whiskey slow and straight. She takes long walks to procrastinate. She walks with the sun and she's never late. My philosopher never cries. Her steadfast analysis catch every lie. My philosopher cannot fall in love, and she doesn't know how to die. So I thought I'd read, if it will come up. This is the first poem I ever wrote as an adult. Okay. So it's called The Freedom Man. It's in memory of Nelson Mandela when he died in 2013. My trust is in the freedom man, who turned on his heels and walked into forever. Miles away, we held together our little warm hands in honey brown shades of solidarity. Little girl, little boy, knowing nothing of the struggle which let us splash colour on the world. 27 years and his earth was a different earth. Every grain of soil had shifted slightly when he came to meet the land again after so many hours of separation. Sinking his feet deeper, the world asked him too if he had changed, and trusted he had not. Even from afar, we thought we knew him. He was freedom, he was equality. To believe in him, we had to trust his everything, yeses and nos, smiles and disguises, and we did. When he was laid to earth just moments ago, we saw him painted in the deepest shades of struggle, warm anger, bright words, bold outlines of spirit against the skyline. For a moment at least, we felt safe and beautiful, our trust in the fragile humanity of our man alone. Once he walked for us to follow, and now, in perfect isolation, he walks unchained from the weight of our earth, in the colours we touch with our fingertips. Okay, so this is the story. It's called Maya and Zelda. It's an extract from a story poem called A Leaving Story. There are people who are born and make places, and there are people who are made by a place. The concrete to school is sawdust, frozen still, gold sometimes in the early. 8-year-old Zaya in Maya. Do you like poem? He laughed, I laughed, the wind put us together, the sun looked blue in the rain. Maya shakes her head. Both of them, honey skin, braided hair, feet size like bricks in the wall. Two colour, she says. No, you two grey. But do you even know a hymn? Grey again. Yes, well, looks better with our dark green shoes. Part 2. The village bordered on a river, bright and red. The sun made it metal in the morning, and the sky sealed it iron at night. Maya and Zelda played in the river every day of their remembered childhood, whatever the weather. Toes in first, dip full until the ankles tingle, rubber shoes only, no socks. Maya and Zelda made the trees and the rocks friends to last a lifetime, all manners of shapes cast in shadows. In March, the tadpoles were ready to be moved, from the left side to the river to the right. Spread them evenly, help God make her bed. Maya liked the tails with intense focus. Same tails gave Zelda shivers up her back, seeing them as a warm, swarm mass. They both liked to move them, bucket and net. Zelda to restore order, Maya out of fascination. Maya could see each tail move individually, and mass did not frighten her. Underneath them there was the soil. It throbbed green and blue in the thudding morning, the wheezing afternoon. Zelda lay close by to listen. Maya touched her shoulder, whispered in the ground. Zelda and the whole world could hear. Clouds passed overhead between the trees. They think of the house they sleep in only as a pause zone. We will get up and out of it, from the moment we could. Mum died in the first room at the back. We will get up and out of it, again. 3. Grandma is great and dark and goddess. Grandma is the whole world. Opens doors in the morning, closes windows at night. Hope she'll let us free, and she does. Hope she'll feed us, and we pray to her. She is with us because Zelda killed her mummy. Maya was just fine, just coming, and Zelda was too much. Grandma works like a boat in the cold sea, forever or sink. Grandma needs bread in the sink, dried squeak for it. The surface is full with objects. Painted bowls and wicker baskets have a past we don't know. Grandma thinks in many tongues and does not like to speak in words. Grandma has all the world's ideas locked dead inside. Grandma, can we ask another thing? No, but she protects us forever. There is no fear. When do you think we'll stop playing this game? Tadpoles, the Great Migration. They were asked by Grandma over breakfast. They both think until they are alone together to answer. It is the biggest question they have ever faced. I think when I'm 13, says Maya, as if she'd become it alone somehow. When we are, says Zelda. When we are, she says. Chapter 5. Zelda, at 15, fell into school and out of Maya. What is all this reading, distraction from loss of love and the heart's reforming? Maya is with men and boys and other people. Zelda is alone and searching always. Zelda is thinking about other places, and the world is not so red as river, the world is not a metal bath. She is beginning to realize she loves history. At school they learn about apartheid. Workmen from our country did in the effort to own the world, to win the world, to destroy it. White teacher confesses, it is happening now. And Zelda wonders how now still, when we are born in it and our dark skin in white school makes these lines an end. And she tells Maya, and Maya doesn't care, and pushes her deep curl hair back and looks to ask about her boyfriend, Zelda. What does she think of him? But she knows Zelda doesn't care. How so short of a time, and what is this strange age, 15, a sorry age, so sorry, a fracture bath, the end of everything. And Zelda just paints and wants to know more, and Maya in other dreams without her. Zelda is 18 and Maya got on the train to somewhere else. How could they have become born within minutes of each other, still there next to the mirror, smile photo, other part of herself? She toyed with what to put in her case. She didn't want anything. That book reminded her of their conversation, this shirt, her laugh. She hated to treasure things, but had them anyway. The photos blue-tacked along the wall of their room, people at school she never spoke to, Maya's people, her own face, wrong on all the edges. Zelda to live in the moment, looking back, made her sick and tearful, knowing eventually that is all she would ever have. She crumpled the khaki shorts and tried to think of them practically, rather than in terms of their origins. A thing for the sun, for the future. Thanks.
I'm going to read three things. I'm going to read some new work. I'm going to read a poem, and then I'm going to read two excerpts from a novel. I've actually kind of given up calling things poems or stories because I just seem to write poetry, and when I write fiction, it's just poetry that's disguised as fiction. So this is, I want to start with this. This is kind of sort of the most recent thing I've been working on. It's called This Savage Work. She is the poorest member of our tribe, destined to catch a heart attack while drawing pension in the bank, bound to fall hard while fleeing trapeze from barbed wire, inching over tall bush, tanty bound to suffocate while eating duck meat with a spoon, to be decapitated by bachelor galvanized in hurricane, to bust back her big toe while kicking asphalt raw red coming up the government road. She have no land, no lumber, cockroach, thunder. Picture her picture album, tatter torn till technicolor turning white. Draw document dissolving in hideous dust. Her brittle gate breaks and remains swung down shut. The old dog have mange, the brown hog have pups. Who say poor? Then enter auntie house and see what dirt poor is. Is mulch and crease between floorboards, sugar mud among lizard and dung bug colonies, linoleum. Dirt grain fine like granulated sand, old dirt, nasty dirt, worthless dirt, earthless hurt. Bogus dirt remaining since 1970. Since anti-dream of secretarial work get put on hold for matrimony. As if that were pinnacle. As if air-conditioned office and shorthand proficiency could beat back heritage poverty in this colony. Either that or you fly to Miami, skyscraper colony, tall money. Either that or you escape to New York. Either way, or you fall asleep between jobs, 2 a.m. between 14th and Rockaway. Either that or you band your belly and eventually you end up on that hill with your kin, like everybody, watching life carry on its savage work. Raise her hand, but the hand can't raise. The left palm crimp and can't raise to groom it, so cut it. Speak her tongue, but her tongue can't use. Is only wind the throat pumping. Beat her heart, but the drum skin slack, and her eyes are rolling under oceans. Is only a moulder the woman drink. So in the middle of the dance, they lay her down flat and call for the ambulance. Whatever music playing in that christening must shut. And when the mark bus is a blood vessel, burst and piercing to ring in anti-good head. Hear the prognosis, but no ear can tell. See the scan, but like the scan, see true. Listen to the river, but that river can't run. And from then, things start to taper down and catch age, quick. The body succumb. Somebody say, the river dry, but it's still a river. Yes, but his years now auntie waiting to pull so much tough cotton out she mouth to sing. I'm going to read a couple of things from this novel that I've been working on. I was supposed to be doing a PhD, which I finished now, thank God, but in the middle of it, I took a break and I wrote a novel in the meantime, and my supervisor was very pissed off. But you know, I was happy to do it. It's called The Frequency of Magic. I'll discuss it very briefly so you get an idea what's going on. It's first of all, there's 100 chapters. Each chapter is exactly 1,000 words. You can count them when I read if you want. The story is about this guy in Trinidad. He's living on a hill. He's a butcher, and in his part-time, he's writing a novel. He's an amateur writer trying to write a novel. But he's taken 41 years, and he still hasn't finished. And the characters in the novel get really bored and fed up and old and tired, and they decide, man, I'm leaving this shit, I'm going. So one by one, they escape from the novel. And they begin to have their own adventures and their own stories. So you read about their lives and their experiences, and you also read about the old man trying to write this book. So you're never sure what you're reading. You're never sure if you're reading something that this guy is writing or the author, it destabilizes everything. The other thing that's interesting about it, I think, is that it's dealing with an idea that I've been working on, which is about simultaneous narrative. In the West, we are sort of constrained by this linear idea of narrative. This happens, then that happens, then that happens, then that happens. All of fiction is based on it. I kind of, as a Trinidadian and as a Caribbean, I kind of realized that in the Caribbean, everything feels like it's happening at once. When you're there, it's like all this information is coming into you at once. The senses are heightened. People that are from the Caribbean know what I mean. There's a heightened sense of experience, and everything is happening at the same time. So I try to capture that, so it moves between ideas and between stories quite freely. So, right. This is chapter 60. I'm just going to read a couple of chapters. Each of them take exactly about 6 minutes to read, so I'll just read 2 of them. Luke has now left Mount Lambert and was on his way to Mad Bull Hill. He hoped that when called upon in that decisive moment, when men are tested and astonish themselves in conflict, that he too would step up to the battle with his fist hot and his big heart open, ready to throw his hand. He knew that Basil, when he came, would come suddenly. There's a footnote. And the footnote says, no, that's too small, I can't read it. It's like, basically, personification of the big man himself. Basil is the grim reaper, the king of terrors, hailstone and sorrow, when I dared bury my clothes. For more info, see The Mighty Destroyer. I don't know why the hell I can't get fat, 1948. And Leave Me Alone, Dorothy, 1940. And Melchior say, when Basil bowl you out, you can't put no leg before wicket. You have to walk back to the pavilion. You're bound to go. He was no longer afraid. He watched a young soldier step off the train a few carriages ahead. The soldier walked upon the earth with a fearless grip, and Luke was somehow empowered by this vision. He knew then that no engine or plot could grind him to blush. He had traveled across rugged waters and perilous rock. He had been bitten by sandfly, marabunta, tsetse-fly, and might more bitey than the raised belt welts from the bandit's cut-ass belt. And if he find himself in the desert, what they ask, they put him there for, than to crack some jackass carapace with licks. Luke could not remember much of his childhood, and of that which he did recall, he could not be sure if the remembering was his to have or someone else's to be taken from a soft bed and dragged down a hill screaming for love in the hot afternoon, torn from his mother's arms, and from this stain remained on him, was since written into historical fiction and verse. And the telling and the who, he never grew weary, was the same for everything and everyone upon that hill. From the weak-hearted deacon sanding crooksticks, to the fisherman skanking to dub roots rockers in the community halls, where two bad DJ would clash and rib would rattle from bass, and with his trousers rolled up to the knee. Never mind overwrite or verbosity, haul your ass with that. Every soul cage carries its sorrow within. And emphasize this. In the streets, Luke would suddenly forget who he was. Then remember that his consciousness was his, and that ultimately he was alone, and would leave alone, with both hands swinging. No duty-free chocolate, no rum, no gift to bring for nobody. Luke entered Mad Bull Hill sideways like a crab, climbing up the side of a muddy precipice behind People House, around still post and pillar, walking soft where men piss in passing, so the earth there moist and rancid. Cool breeze don't heal it. The house was where his father lay his head after his car overturned on a hot Tobago highway, and had a comfort woman to sap his brow with bay leaf and feed him chicken foot soup. She had Creole blood, Taino, and the round face, the wide mouth, and was humble but proud, and her shoulders were straight, with muscle built from carrying buckets of water and children up hills and rocky ocean sides. Her breast filled up with muscle from digging up tubers, cassava, and tanya, but one cocoa dust full up basket, and she established her own furniture business and put the first brick house up on Mad Bull Hill. Luke's father had met her at the Bagatelle Parish Fair. In the field between the bamboo and the river, that country afternoon, where with the luscious balm of gospel, the leader of the church went walking and shaking hands, and the woman selling turtle prick soup from a bucket, bent nice to dish him food from her pot as he passed. People form a long line. The reader could negotiate the rest. There were men There were men. Red rocks of lava and the fire between. Strip him naked and he turned wrestler. Ground how he wanted to eat people raw, to separate the bone from the marrow. He asked for Luke in the government printry. In this town, there was one place for each department of civil ceremony. And they show him a map of Mad Bull Hill, and in that map he see Luke sit down round the fire with the same face men, and when Luke see the bandit watching, he turned the page and run. So I think something actually went wrong there, but that's all right. It's, you know, I think I could get away with that. I think I missed a little bit of that. Yeah, possible. Forget it. It's cool. It's cool. I'm going to finish off with a piece that I wrote for a poet called Space Ape, who some of you might know, who passed away a few years ago. Space Ape was this dub poet, really amazing dub poet, and one of the, I guess, one of our shining examples of what poetry could achieve, and died after a long period of illness, pretty young. So I wrote this for him. It's also from the novel, and I wrote it for a friend of mine called Yusuf Ahmed, who lived in Birmingham, who was another poet. So this is the arc for Space Ape and Yusuf Ahmed. Sun Ra was on the ark. Prince Nico Mabaga, he was on the ark. So was Art Taylor and Sonny Simmons and Bessie Smith and Superglue. All on the ark, and Joe Tex and Mitty Collier and Giuseppe Logan, even Robert Aaron, the Roaring Lion, and Lou Chicotelli were abdominally on the ark. The original De Fosto himself was also on the ark. Beat rivers of song upon the omole drum, just a cutlass carpenter, no skill with timber, four-eyed fish were on the ark. Who play in war and frayed blood, who play in mass and frayed powder, who prevaricate and ruse, holy water as ritual upon the ark, but don't want ink or powder to touch their clothes. Who else was on the ark? Max Roach was on the ark, and Ras Shorty Eye, Eric Dolphy, and Amiri Baraka, Ras Elibank, and Harry Belafonte, them was high up upon the boat. Baba Tunde was on the ark, Ola Tunje was on the boat, Mama Drum. You say you're coming to come, but you never reach as far as the leader house. You never hear his sword off, speaker drum, boom, dub roots all around the village. Bachelor life. And then you hear he bullying 3 women in the congregation, and the shepherd raising crook sticks and tapping his foot when the hymns swing. But he's suffering in silence, because he wondering if while he in church, rocking back on his heels, his woman horning him with the elder. When night come, and he need a seer man to see, or tack back and catch them in slackness. But his faith was firm. Every Sunday he in the church, he was on the ark in brogues. Beatty was on the ark, Mong and Vino in pajamas, the wild moon, fever in his throat, performance poet and stand-up comic both were on the boat. And the ark was full, but more was to come, and coming still. Ethel Waters was on the ark, singing Creole Gold. Octavia Butler hip good up upon the boat. The mighty sparrow, robed in African wax print and dancing as man, Eric Eustace Williams, dead and living same time, also wrapped in kente. Larry Lee, masked and sudden drooling, Fats Waller, Art Pepper, Miss Bobby Hall, even Gang Gang Sarah, blown from Guinea to Lokoto Tobago, who climbed the great silk cotton tree in Coloden with intention was to fly back to Africa, but who fell to stony death because she had eaten salt. She was on the ark. And the mighty Spoiler, the mighty Terror, the mighty Broclax, and the mighty Zandoli in proper soft pants, throwing vitamins down his throat. He have a woman to crack in Siparia. He have one to crack in La Romaine. He have one to crack in Dabadi, alive but living among the dead, still cracking bois around Stickman head. Then Pharaoh Sanders reach with Yusuf Latif. Earl Lovelace laugh. He see Eric Roach reach on the ark. His book of poems is still warm under his arm. Eric did not drown, at least not deeply, but he turned his back to the shore and dove in deeper. And when the ark had 2 days to go before it reached Southampton, here come John LaRose and Charles Mingus. Here come Lord Kitchener in 1957 on his way back from New York. Here come Paul Robeson and Beryl McBurney. Even Olive Walk rode upon that boat. This was the year the great bandit graduated from bandit school and robbed 40,000 men in San Fernando. When the river washed down from the Million Hills and cleansed the city, and who were drowned, badly waterlogged, and who were dead, badly wounded. But the devil came down with his escort and chariot to survey the land. and found poor black folk had hidden in holes in the earth, and in barrels sealed shut with lagly sap from the breadfruit tree. And some drowned stupid. But the poets were wise and hid in the trees and were never found. And the devil rode on, and the houses of prime ministers were burned to the ground, and all around the embassy route, those grand facades of colonial times were volcanically cast to ash and plundered. And the devil moved west, searching for that gold-throated woman who, after making disco love one morning, ventured him up to the hills overlooking the city, behind the bridge and quarry, and show him where his own navel string buried. And he, wow, how he never imagined his own city as a map. Its grids and ley lines, the white foam foaming at the lips of the coast. Years hence, the devil went knocking at discotheque doors, but the woman was gone. She was upon the ark. Anointed with olive oil and sacred colors, Jan Carew was on the ark, and Dominique Gamour, as was Milton Cardona and Rosetta Tharpe, Odetta, CLR James, Kemal Mulbokas, but not Kemal Braithwaite. He was not on the ark. Instead, Baba, the great teacher, had long since evaporated into air, into language, into sound, into the very sex fruit of poetry. Oil does not dry upon his tongue, nor honey on the tips of his fingers. And the ark drove down to Bristol, Brixton, Birmingham, and Manchester too. It swooned to New York, Boston, and Chicago, New Orleans, see it too. Then it swing down to Haiti, Cuba, Jamaica, Suriname, Guyana. Remember that this ark respects no boundaries or Archimedes. It moves like a crown on a draft's table, any damn where it choose. Look, it passed through Aruba, Trinidad, Grenada. It move up the Orinoco River, and it never wear necktie yet. St. Lucia get it, St. Vincent see it too. It come up from the southern Caribbean all the way back up to Pascagoula Bay. Yes. Stephen Samuel Gordon, Space 8, was on the boat with the oar, and Brother Yusuf Ahmed was on the boat blowing the big abang. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I know how hard it is to move on Monday. I feel like this is definitely worth it though. Usually I don't move on Monday. Just kind of getting ready for the battle of the week. But yeah, so it's lovely to see so many people here. And that you stayed from the workshops. It didn't put you off. That's good. This is called Hotel Art. We're eating roses on a rooftop. The Med crashes beneath us. They serve clouds here too, I say. Then let's get some for a light starter. Wink. What kind of clouds are they? Fluffy or black? The waiter doesn't answer. We sit at a woodblock. Antique, you say, let go of my hands to stroke it. There's enough of an age gap here. Need they have sat us at an extra 100 years? I crave a cigarette till the razor clams arrive in straight lines. What's the matter, you ask? Nothing, I just thought my wrists would ache. You grin, attention seeking from even your dinner. Excuse me, I rise, make the sparkling water shudder in your empty glass. You only notice your steak. Contorting myself 3 ways in the toilet mirror, I decide I won't look like this forever. I don't even look like this now. We discuss kids, Maybe it's the wine, maybe it is because my belly is beginning to press against the bones of my dress. You say, I don't think I'll identify with a brown sun. Dessert is air from a porcelain pump. What if he has your eyes, I dare, after another glass? Back in our borrowed bathroom, I mouth abort with the help of the stem. You pretend not to have ears. With my eyes closed, you don't. I join you on the balcony. You hold me from behind as if straitjacketing me to the night. You lean us over, count. We are as many stories up as our age gap. Why do you always have to? Shush. You lift my dress. I shoulder width my legs. Is love not this? Gripping a fence in the sky. Night vigil. I was a choir girl, real angel, lightning-faced and giant for my age. Mum let us stay up late if we went with her to night vigil. It started at midnight, a time too sexy to fathom, how the minute and the hour stood to attention. During 3 members' prayer, my sister fell asleep under a chair, so she never knew how I sang or how I was silent when the evangelist with smiling eyes said in his pulpit voice, "Come, child." Had she woken, I would have told her, "Sleep, sleep," so she'd never know smiling eyes also meant teeth, or that he had blown candles for hands with which he led me down an incense corridor, and I followed. The Mourners. 1. Night is a short film you commissioned, a redneck curtain billowing in slow-mo. At 1 minute 22 seconds, a girl's face appears behind it. 2 brown hands. The cameras reach out, find only fabric. 2. They are with us in this room. Mum taught me how to feel them on my back, how to plead the blood, thumb 7 crosses between my blades in the center of my forehead. She didn't teach me how to lose them on my way home from Sainsbury's. If you can't find a tree, walk 3 times around a parked car, don't look in the windows, don't smoke till you get home. They are attracted to sadness. 3. A xylophone holds the old woman's deathbed together. At first you think a contradiction between its purpose and its architecture. But then her husband's ring hits the bed rail, then her son's, then her daughter's necklace as they reach over to press heads, pray in orchestra. The camera pans over her open casket to the mantle. A related ballerina is bound in flight behind glass, a cheap frame. Her mourners mourn unprofessionally, quietly, forking their mac and cheese into their living black mouths. 4. At church, the big aunties, everyone is your auntie, but it's your uncles you must be careful of, would run thick fingers under their plastic pearls and fan between their neck folds. Black people are the blackest in their creases. Bleach will take to smooth places, but refuse to take to knuckles, knees. Fanta face, Coca-Cola body, Mum and Auntie Pat wobble behind their Bibles. I can still only tell if Mum is laughing or crying by her breasts. Up, down for laughing, up, down, then into a heavy sway for crying. 5. Remember when you thought heaven was a shack on a cloud, and Mary was there, smiling serene, walking between the rows laid out on the bare floorboards. You kept trying to get up, like the only live crab in a box. Remember why you'd eat 2 dinners, then as many broken biscuits as it took to taste metal on the bridge of your mouth. You knew, somehow, that to die was to be hungry. Each night Mary squeezes your shoulder, says, "Stay down." She has the voice of a social worker. The mourners mourn you unprofessionally, scissoring your nightdresses from mannequins onto paper plates, and with a cake fork, passing you into their living black mouths. So a little while ago, and it always feels new, I kind of got over, sort of, I say kinda, in the true way, I kind of got over being scared of what to write. So I write about lots of things that perhaps people are more worried about writing. Anyway, so I went on a retreat with 2 other poets, and we were challenging each other to write things that we don't usually write. And like I said, because I write things, I was like, okay, you need a sex poem. And they were like, oh, I don't know. And they were like, you need one. I was like, here. So I thought, okay, how can I do this differently then? And so this is a poem about stripteasing, but instead of actual stripteasing, the words are. It's called The Art of Undressing. Ache down the clock. Earn over your foe. He only thing that should vibrate in this lace. You want some thigh, reavable. Something you and remove easily. Think Otten, Ilk, Ockins, Rib, Orset. The reparation is Eve. Immer your clavy. Row bone, orb of shoulder, shins and flower, ood, toes, gold, arrobes, tongue of, owing this time to illow hair, a bow or ring, play your fingers, ooh, the purple, ethers, sigh, eve it to the flow, icon is evering. It's really hard to get your mouth around, and your brain also tries to fill things in for you. I was like, I shouldn't have had that glass of wine, my mask was stick. But I didn't, I got there. Okay, so just the last 2 poems. This one's in a transitional stage, so I think I'm exercising it by reading it to you. It's called Wrap Dress. Dinner of kidney and oranges. You are now, as before, sat in a geometric wrap dress. The garden is a patch with a rake in it. Tell him that you're pregnant. Don't you know anything? Let the man finish his dinner in peace. Let him complete his warm beer. Later, secure a black veil. Kneel before the lit throat of a candle. Beg forgiveness for the thing you haven't done yet. Say it in the tongue your mother might have taught you. Who will you be this time? Will you allow a flower to open like a door from your mouth? Or does a bouquet of horsewhips full bloom from your right hand? Thank you, you've been a really beautiful audience. Yeah, I mean that, I was scared about reading some things, so thank you. Okay, so my last poem. It's called Apples. Send me over our pics. I want to laugh in bed, I text her. They bleep through 2 days later. We are posing 6 months apart and blurry. Last night, I missed my train by seconds. So close that one part of me did catch it and waved from the window to the other half, still fuck panting on the platform, tits play-dohing out of a shit bra. I couldn't sleep for an hour and a quarter, the exact time between the two slices of me reaching home in separate taxis, each driven by a brother who co-owned the firm. Today, I am doing nothing but assuming the recovery position. In my favourite outfit, a jumper with no knickers, the perfect hot-cold combo, like a bowl of baked crumble and ice cream. I am Glossy magazine educated, so have known for a while now that my body is an apple, similar to a cornet or a bell, but different tasting, rounder-bellied. The supporting theory is I bruise so easy, I worry it's skin cancer. No, the doctor says again, it's just your dark skin. She recommends scar serum. When I was bored after service, with Mum still counting the collection and insisting on sweeping from altar to street, I'd sit in front of a white pillar, a Bible open in lap, and I'd wake dream a brown woman with tattoos having rough sex in a toilet cubicle. I can't remember the man's face or his body, whether he had either, only that he needed his love to impact. Nor can I remember what I named her, something beginning with N. When the mum of my then best friend said her daughter wasn't allowed to play with me because I was another N-word, meaning Mum went round in her dressing gown to slap her silly with her tongue, then came back to scatter the kitchen and shred Dad's guardian for not sticking up for us, for never saying anything. After that, I had a sleep dream in which I grew a bright green face, Granny Smith-hued, high-polished. And even though I was green, I was the most beautiful woman in the world. I had the best hair and even did humanitarian work. I was interviewed about both things each night for TV. Thank you very much.
We're free. Thank you.